Yeah, next week I'm gonna do the other 5 sets. So as long as we understand how to introduce each of the different activities within, it just becomes a repetitive process. So next week when we go over blue, green, teal, magenta, and purple, we will introduce the different phonemes that will be introduced throughout those. So each step within each series focuses on a different sound combination.
And can I say something that I do that really keeps me on track? I took that paper and I shrunk it and put 3 of them on one, and I laminate it and I put it in the front, tape it in the front of their journal, so that way as they do it, I just write the date on it so I know what they have done.
Oh, and that way when you go into Montessori Workspace, you can just
update it. Neat.
Yeah, because there's a lot of steps, and so I think
Yeah.
it's very helpful to have a system to be able to track that.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be good. So a couple of the things that we didn't talk about. So we introduced A, I, O, U, and then E. Once you've introduced E, you get through the storybook, The Jet. Down at the bottom of the language schedule, it will tell you that you can now introduce word banks 1 through 3.
Oh, the high frequency.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So there's 2 things that go along with that. There are high frequency sight words.
Which those are the words that you have in your basket.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Which most of the high frequency sight words that you introduce within the mystery words will have already been introduced. These are just focusing solely on sight words because we want to have extra repetition of introducing those particular words to the child. Also, there will be a few new sight words in here that have not been introduced in the storybooks, and those are just really important words for them to be able to get. So basically you can start introducing these sight words anywhere in the pink material. You just want to make sure that they have been introduced before you get into the word bank activities. Okay?
Okay.
And you introduce sight words the same way that you introduce mystery words with 3-period lessons. So take them off their rings, introduce 2 or 3 at a time, do a 3-period lesson, move on. And then to check their knowledge, you'll just have them read them, sort them into categories, repeat 3-period lessons as necessary. Okay? And so it tells you which sets you can introduce in your manual. And it sets 1, 2, 3, and 5. I don't know why it's out of order. It's really strange. But you want to introduce sets 1, 2, 3, and 5. And then you'll introduce the word bank activities. So word bank activities are super fun. I actually meant to get you guys paper. Does everyone have paper to write with?
Mm-hmm.
I can make that a thing.
Can you do
Okay, so word banks give you some random words. And it's going to be words pulled from both the sight words and the mystery words that you've introduced throughout the pink material. And what you do with this is you create your own sentences based on the words that are in the word bank.
you have to use what is on the
Yes,
board.
you can only use what is on the list. Cool?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just come up with a random sentence. Meg was on the bus. Meg was on the bus. And so I would write that down, and you can write that in your journal, or you can have a separate piece of lined paper that you would introduce with that. Let's see, what else can I come up with? Mom sat in his yellow cat. That doesn't really make sense, but
But sometimes they're funny and they
sometimes they're funny.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would like you guys to do is I'm going to pass around. There's 3 sets of word bank activities that you can introduce at this point that cover all the concepts that they've introduced to. So I'm going to give you 2, 1 to share. I'm going to give you 2, 1 to share.
But some like the kid, they would just want to copy those words.
And if they want to use it for copywriting, that's okay. But I would encourage sentence construction here. So I want you each to come up with 2 sentences. guys are taking a test.
Looking for words that aren't there.
Yeah, sometimes it's frustrating because like you just really want
I know,
there to be a word to use, but it doesn't
Yeah,
work
and I
out.
had to cross off one because it was wrong. It was in the wrong context of what they had been wording.
Oh.
I'm like, I'll tell you that one later.
Okay.
We make a game out of this.
Yeah. What do you guys do?
Just we put them up in teams and see who gets the most.
Oh, who can come up with the most sentences? Yeah, it's really fun. You can come up with all sorts of funny stuff. And if you're using their journal for it, then that top portion where they can write a picture, they can then draw a
they
picture of. It's perfect.
We do that when we dictate too. I'll dictate the sentence to them, and then they'll write the sentence, and then they'll go back and draw. I'll give them like 3 of them, and they have to pick one of them to make the picture.
Nice. That's fun.
You use the word hot and sun, but you can't put it into a sentence because there's not enough articles.
I know that's like I read that. The man had job.
You have A.
The hot sun.
Yeah.
That's it. Can't put in the hot sun.
The big hit stuff.
There's no the.
There's the.
Oh,
I
there
have
is
the hot sun, but there's like you can't write in the hot sun. Fun in the sun.
There's no in.
There's no in.
There is in.
Oh, it's a
They're all
different list.
different.
It's a different list.
Okay.
See, this is number 1 of 10. The first 3 are pink.
Okay.
I don't know how to use this word in a sentence, but just these.
You have it too.
How many coffees you drink today?
This is my second one.
I have a third one in my bag.
Everyone come up with their 2 sentences yet?
Yeah.
Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Alright, anybody want to share their sentences?
Sure. The man met Meg.
It's a good sentence.
I was in a jet. First I put jam. And I'm like, nah, they'll think it was the jelly. And I'm like, no.
I was in
So I put jet.
Nice.
The big dog has a lot of fun.
That's
Yeah,
it.
sounds like a good
Yeah,
one.
that's a really good sentence.
High 5.
Here, high five on 3.
The man had a job.
The man had a job. That's
Job.
good.
The pig hit the van.
I'm glad the van didn't hit the pig. Go ahead, Kaylin.
Ted got a pig. We got him a bed.
Okay, I love it. Nice.
The cat was in a bag. I cut a bun and I had a jet. The small sentences.
Those are good, solid sentences, though, guys. I like them. But it's working on that word order and just being able to be fun and creative with it. So we'll go over more word banks next week because we have a set for the next 2 sets of language materials. But I always thought it would be a fun idea to create word banks based on what you guys are discussing in class to go along with your cultural concepts. So that would give your children the spelling they need for the words that you've introduced, and then you could open it up to like any of your sight words you could incorporate into the word banks. But that would just give them a little bit more resource to be able to journal about.
That would be cool
concepts.
to add to our culture boxes too.
Yeah, and like
Oh yeah, for
The
sure.
animals
Yeah.
print
and
them
all
on
that.
a cardstock or something that matches the color of the continents.
Yeah, if you needed to like even put a picture next to the word so that they could associate it with what it was. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
It wasn't mine or anything. You guys can run with it though. I'm not the creative one to put it together. So in the manual, I have totally updated the manual. It does go into each series. And then it gives you this chart. I do have a printout where you can just have the chart itself if you wanted a quick reference guide. That gives you the full-blown chart, and then it breaks down each of the different activities, and it gives you a write-up for how to introduce that particular activity. So it has phonetic pictures, phonetic picture cards, phonetic booklet, phonetic word lists, the yes-no comprehension, sentence construction, distinguishing, picture, word matching, review. Oh, we need to go over that. I'm glad that I went through this. Because there's a picture word matching review that is only found in the review section. It's not in the individual sections. High frequency sight words, mystery words, your storybook, reading, reading comprehension, and context questions. We still need to go over those ones. So I'm glad I reviewed that because I just realized the things I hadn't introduced yet.
That looks so good.
Thanks. This section has actually been in there for years. But I added the other materials are in here now too. Where is it? Oh, the purple series.
Oh my goodness.
So everything's in there now. Okay. So the review section, we already talked about the distinguishing. It's the same lesson here. It's just that you're going to have a mixture of different vowel sounds. And then picture, what was this called? Picture and word bank matching. So this gives you two different pictures, and then it gives you a word bank to choose from. So both of these words are in here. You just don't know which one is which. So this would be a good journal activity too. We're starting here. Which word is rag? Which word is rug? And then they can write it down, and you can check their work on that one. Same here, mad and mud. So sometimes they're in the right order, sometimes they're not. And so it's a spelling practice, but it also gives them the words to go from here. So it's just really solidifying again the difference between the vowel sounds and being able to spell the words. So yes, that's another activity that you can introduce. And then when you get into the storybooks, when you're ready for a child's, especially their first storybook, you really want to make sure that they are proficient in all the preceding materials associated with that storybook. Okay? We want them to have a very successful read their first time. This is not something that you read to them first and then they read to you. You start out by them reading to you. So you open it up and it's all them. And it's really important that you have time to focus on the child reading the story when they're reading it. Because you need to be able to identify the areas in which they're struggling, so you know if they need to go back and work on some things, or if there are some areas that you should probably give some review lessons in, or is it the combination? They've done great with everything coming up to this, but now that I'm in a storybook and there's like sentences after sentence, that's where I'm struggling.
And sometimes they'll look at the picture and want to make up their own. And it's like, no, you have to go back and tell me what the book says.
Yes, exactly. And that's what, up to this point, you're working with an emergent reader.
Mm-hmm.
Kids who are emergent readers, what do? They pick up a storybook with pictures and they do what?
They make up their own.
They make up their own story. That's what they're used to doing. And that's a sign that they're ready for this part of reading.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that they're used to doing. And so don't discourage them from adding to what they see in the picture. That's a good comprehension strategy. But we need to make sure that they're actually reading the words in the book too. So they're going to read through the whole book. Hopefully you can sit with them and devote your attention to them reading. So picking times of the day that are quieter in your classroom. If you need to focus on reading during the afternoon sessions where you can actually be able to sit in a quieter environment, that's okay. You can dictate when a child gets to read the storybooks because you need to make sure that they have your undivided attention, okay? If you're working in a classroom, especially assistant teachers that are in here right now, if you know your lead is about to sit and read a book to the child, communicate that with your assistants, because we want to make sure, or if the assistant is the one that's sitting and listening, we need to make sure that they know that their attention is committed to this one child for, you know, the next couple of minutes while they're reading the storybook. Okay. And as you can see, even in the first book, they have several lines on a page. And so this could be the part that trips up a child. They might know the words, they might be awesome at decoding, their fluency might be improving, they might know all the sight words, but when it comes to reading multiple words in a line and moving from line to line, that could be a struggle for them. So make sure that you're reinforcing those reading strategies to help them be proficient. So they're going to get through the whole story. And yay, they read their first book. So, you know, make a big deal out of it. It's really exciting that they've been able to work through that. Once they've read this book, if they haven't already started with the Bob book series, get them working on that too, so that parents can see that they're really engaged in wanting to learn these things. So that's again where you would introduce the comprehension pages. They should be pretty simple questions for them to answer.
Do you do the questions after you do the book, or do you go straight to that? Because I usually ask them the questions right after so they don't lose it and have to go back and do it.
It kind of depends. Sometimes I wait until they read the book a second time to ask the comprehension questions, because especially if it's their very first book reading, they might still be focusing more on decoding than the fluency of comprehension. So it may take a couple of reads for a child to really comprehend the text, and that's okay. If you noticed a child is spending most of their time reading and sounding out the words, I would probably not jump into the comprehension questions or page. And it doesn't matter. To answer your question, you can do it whichever order you want to. So she's referring to the actual questions that go along with the book. So to give you an idea, sometimes I like doing this first because they're simpler questions. These are very straightforward, like this is what I saw in the book. The context questions require a little bit more in-depth thought. So that's typically why I do this one second. If they did really well with this, then they're probably more likely to do this. If they struggle with this, then I'm probably going to have them read the book again before I do this one. So that's why I do it that way, but it's not wrong if you jump straight into this. So Mac and Tab, did they recognize which character was which? Is the ham in the pan? This gives a picture right here, so they don't even have to reference the book. It's just a basic comprehension question. Sequencing, which of these came first in the story? And this is dry erase, so they can actually write in here. And then Tab had a nap on the cat, Matt, or ham, and then they write in the answer, and they can circle it too. So if they don't remember these questions, what do you think you should do?
Read the book again.
Yeah, go back and look through the book. And maybe for this one, I don't have them reread the book. Maybe a reading strategy. Let's look through the book and look at the pictures now, because that's what they're familiar with as far as becoming an emergent reader. It's okay to find context questions within pictures and not have to reread the text. But I'm going to look through the pictures and I'm going to find, oh, he looks really mad there. He's on a mat. I'm looking for them taking a nap. So I don't have to reread the whole book to be able to find a picture of them napping, right? Oh, maybe I do. Did I miss it?
Yeah, it was at the beginning.
It was at the beginning? Oh, okay. I went too far, guys. Oh, look. Haha. There's a picture of them napping, and they're napping on a mat. So now I know the answer to the question. So it's okay for them to use the pictures to understand the context questions. So that's also teaching them reading strategies as far as understanding comprehension. Use the pictures. It's okay. And then the reading in context. So these are not as straightforward. It says, what is a pal? So in the book it talks about Mac and Tab being pals. What is a pal?
Friend.
These are friends. So based on what you read in the book, we know that Mac and Tab are friends. So a pal must be a friend. In the beginning of the story, how can you tell that Mac and Tab are good friends? So what are some of the things that happen in the story? And this is also a good opportunity for them to, if they're totally struggling and have no clue, then I would have them reread the book. If they're having trouble coming up with a couple of the parts of the answer, then you can give them the book and let's look through the book and see what we can find. Oh, well, they're smiling at each other.
They both had a nap on the same mat.
They did, and Matt even let Tab sleep on his back. Like, you'd have to be a really good friend to let somebody sleep on you. So those types of things, it's a conversation, and it's okay to reference the book as they do it. But don't jump too quickly into answering questions if you feel like they spent most of the story decoding and not reading for comprehension. Okay? Any questions about any of that? Okay, awesome. So there's only one other thing that I really wanted to review regarding the reading schedule. I do have a slight caveat to how you introduce the materials, or in what order you can introduce the materials in this section. So what I said was we start at the top and we move from left to right, right? Mm-hmm. You can use this chart in a different direction if you wanted to. So say you have a child who gets stuck. So you've done picture to word cards, and they just really need that picture to be able to identify what the word is, and so they're not very proficient with the word books. I just can't get past the word books because they do really well with the pictures, but you remove the pictures and they're lost. Well, I don't want them to become stalled there. I want them to continue to improve and to progress and to become proficient. So what you can do is then go down to the next set. So it can move in both directions. You just can't do anything more advanced than they've gotten in the level above. But if I get stuck at word book with A, and they've been on it for a few weeks now and they're just not getting that, then you know what, I'm going to let them start working on I. Let's do some movable alphabet stuff with I, make sure that they're using the instant learning board with I. Let's do the object and word cards and the picture word cards with I. And that's okay. And then if they're still stuck on this, then I can move down to O. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So especially when we're talking about movable alphabet and picture to word matching, you might have kids who are more proficient and working in more sounds in those areas, but they're not yet able to do a lot of the independent reading activities. And that's okay. Cool? Mm-hmm. All right. Any questions about anything that we've talked about related to pink material, movable alphabet, storybooks, comprehension? Okay, awesome. Woo. So that's all I got for you tonight. Next week we're going to cover the rest of the reading program. And if you move a little bit faster, I'm just going to introduce some strategies to introducing those particular sounds. The straightforward phonemes are a lot simpler than when you start getting combinations of letter sounds together. Well, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go start my